There will be no checks on goods going from GB to NI, from NI to GB, because we are going to come out of the EU whole and entire. We can come out on January the 31st in a state of perfect equilibrium and grace. It's a great deal for this country.
Today, the line changed. The pressures and tensions of 2 years ago, the government said, meant the agreement had been rushed. Remainers had undermined the talks. The man who led the negotiations said the compromises went too far.
The current protocol reflects the extraordinary circumstances in which it was agreed, when this government risked being unable to deliver on a democratically determined referendum result, and when its negotiating hand was tied by actions in this Parliament.
In recent months, the focus has been on British food imports going across the Irish Sea into Northern Ireland. The EU said some food, like sausages, should be banned because they might end up in the EU member, the Republic of Ireland. The government today has seriously broadened its attack. Under the Northern Ireland Protocol, Northern Ireland has to follow EU product standards. The government says it now wants UK standards to operate alongside those EU ones. The UK government wants the EU Court of Justice powers operating in Northern Ireland under the protocol swept away. And having previously said the protocol wasn't the problem, it was the way the EU was interpreting it, now the government is openly saying the protocol has to be rewritten.
It is perfectly normal to change treaties in the light of experience, and it happens all the time. So we have put forward a constructive way
perfectly normal?
to do this. It happens a lot that treaties evolve over time.
Speaking for the EU, Commission Vice President Maros Sefcovic said the protocol must be implemented. Respecting international legal obligations is of paramount importance. We will not agree to a renegotiation of the protocol. The government's produced a pretty chunky shopping list of demands, changes to the protocol it says must happen. And the stick it's hoping to wield over the EU is that it's threatening to unilaterally withdraw from elements of the agreement if it doesn't get its way. Former Brexit negotiators say that could open up a whole new world of pain in EU-UK relations. Loyalist marches against the protocol have continued, though the rioting scene at Easter has not been repeated. Sinn Féin suggested the government had caved in to pressure from loyalists. Loyalists themselves said the government had listened to their concerns.
There's such dysfunctionality with the protocol that the government are saying they could trigger Article 16 now, but they would prefer a sensible renegotiation. That's something we have been calling for since January, since the protocol was imposed on us.
Government negotiated this deal. They had this deal ratified, and it's about time that they sit around implementing this. This is not an imposition of a trading arrangement from the EU onto the British government. Boris Johnson sought a mandate and won a mandate specifically around reflecting and perfecting Brexit.
But Boris Johnson's chief Brexit negotiator, Lord Frost, said today significant changes were now necessary and talks should start urgently. One former Brexit negotiator said either the government is overbidding in the hope of getting some small concessions, or we're entering a brave new world of diplomacy. Gary Gibbon, Channel 4 News, Westminster.
Well, a little earlier I spoke to Ireland's Europe Minister Thomas Byrne. I started by asking him whether he thought the protocol was working.
I mean, the protocol is working as I think everybody expected it to work. Boris Johnson, David Frost negotiated the protocol with the European Union. The aim that everybody had, to be fair, was to ensure that there would be no hard border on the island of Ireland. The protocol succeeds in that. And where there are issues, we try to work constructively with the British government or the European Union to resolve those issues.
We're hearing reports of trucks carrying fresh produce being turned away because they have the wrong colour of typeface on their documents, and that's in the south of Ireland, and they expect the same situation to be replicated in the north. So this really has to be fixed, doesn't it?
Well, a very, very small number of trucks are stopped for customs and for checks. Very, very small. The vast majority of goods get through borders very, very easily. But why are those borders there now? They're there because of Brexit. The European single market was created to remove those barriers between countries in Europe for trading goods. Unfortunately, Brexit brought those barriers back. That was the decision taken. So those barriers are there. We never wanted them, but they are there, and we've tried to, again, work them properly, not cause undue difficulties. And in fact, there are not undue difficulties. Of course, there will always be some exceptions where documentation wasn't done properly. But that's the whole point of trade agreements. It's the whole point of the European single market, is to remove these documentary checks.
The thing is, you might not have wanted Brexit to happen, and there are people in Britain who didn't want Brexit to happen, but it has. That's the reality, and it was the democratic will of the British people. So we have to make this work now, don't we?
We have to make the protocol work. That's absolutely correct. We're willing to be as flexible, as realistic as possible within the confines of what's already been agreed, to bring certainty, to bring an end to this period of difficulty. Quite frankly, over the last year, the British government have threatened not to do things, have actually not done things. That then creates a difficulty of trust with the European Union. And I think we certainly were listening carefully to what was said today. We'll consider it very, very carefully. But whatever discussions that the European Union has with Britain in relation to the protocol, we need to be sure that what's agreed will be complied with, because simply that hasn't quite happened up to now, despite our best efforts.
Do you trust the UK government?
Well, look, I'm not going to go on UK television and start talking about a lack of trust, but the relationship has been difficult. There's no doubt about that. We want to trust the British government. In fact, we need to be working on a trustworthy and friendly basis to protect not just trade in goods in Northern Ireland, but the peace of Northern Ireland as well. It's in everybody's interest that we work closely together. We're going to contribute to that by listening carefully to what was said today, and we will react then formally, I suppose, in due course. But we're very, very clear that the protocol can't be renegotiated.
The UK government have asked for a grace period. Are you willing to give that to them?
Well, the European Commission has already shown huge flexibility on grace periods and extended a number of them. So these things can always be discussed, and that was done within the confines of the protocol. So, look, there's a grace period there for particular goods at the moment. They're working pretty well. But there are obligations as well that the UK government has in relation to the protocol that the European Commission hasn't felt are working as well. And I suppose we'll have to see how all of these things are working.
We have seen vitriolic protest over this. There is always the threat of violence. The situation in Northern Ireland remains fragile. Do you recognise that?
Peace in Northern Ireland is fragile, and we know that more than anyone. So what is essential for peace in Northern Ireland, and essential to make sure that fragility doesn't turn into a breakdown, is that the British and Irish governments work together, and that means the British government and the European Union work together. And that's the only way to ensure that fragile peace is protected.
Okay. Thomas Byrne, thank you very much for joining us.